Hello. It is Monday, July 26th. Welcome to The Hash, your daily dose of the latest and greatest news in crypto. Joined by Zack, Seward, and by Will Foxley, Sanasie, and I'm Benjamin Powers. We are today with a lot of news going on, but I think you got the first story of it's about instability in the world of stable coins. What do we got?
I do. I have a big report out of Bloomberg this morning that Tether, the administrator of the USDT stablecoin, is potentially under criminal investigation for bank fraud. Now, rumors have swirled around Tether for a number of years. This is not the first time that we've heard of federal investigators kicking the tires on Tether's role in the crypto market, but this report certainly made waves. Let's toss this to Will out the gate. Will, Tether facing some more charges. What's your take? What are your thoughts?
There's a million ways to take this story. I think right now we just have to be patient and kind of see what develops. Of course, like there's always these announcements that some government body is looking into some company, into some project, right? We saw that last week with BlockFi. We saw that 2-3 weeks ago with stablecoins and Janet Yellen and Jerome Powell. We've seen just a lot of this over the last few weeks. The only things that really matter are the substance. For example, the Chinese Bitcoin mining ban, that has some substance behind it that really changed the Bitcoin economy writ large. Right now, we don't know much about this. It's a criminal investigation from years ago, which is interesting that, you still have the long arm of the law. They still care. I would say for DeFi founders, take note of that. Government doesn't forget. But we don't really have any more information besides that. I know that Tether has always been in the spotlight for years. It has been, and stablecoins are only coming to the spotlight more and more because they act as a new vehicle for moving money around the world really easily. And governments don't like that. They want to be able to track it and keep note of it. Well, anyone can have a stablecoin. Anyone can put a stablecoin in their wallet. And it's very hard for Uncle Sam to kind of keep track of that. So I'd expect more stablecoin regulation going forward. And I'd expect more of these reports of criminal investigations or just investigations, maybe not having any like criminal angle to them. But for now, it doesn't seem like the market cares either. I think Bitcoin dropped like maybe 1% and then kind of flatlined again back at 38 after its weekend pump. So we'll see what happens, I guess, is the short way of saying that. Zack, I want to throw it back to you. You've been covering this angle for a while. Are you kind of getting worried that stablecoins have like a reckoning coming?
Yeah, I mean, I think, we saw comments from Yellen, we saw comments from others, and this seems to be squarely within that narrative of, okay, like our stablecoins like a shadow banking system? How do we regulate this? And how do we figure out how to make this safer for consumers while also fostering crypto innovation? And, I think the question is, does that narrative drive this report, or is this new material that hadn't previously been known? I think the detail here is notable that this is a criminal bank fraud charge being pursued by the U.S. Department of Justice, again, according to sources that Bloomberg spoke with. So the fact that these years-long investigations are still out there, looming over a $62 billion project within the crypto ecosystem, certainly notable. But yeah, we're just going to have to do the time will tell and see what materializes from reports such as this. Jen, what are your thoughts?
Well, reading this story for me, I'm just going to echo what Will said. The fact that this is years later should be a warning to a lot of the projects that are starting. That was what was really interesting to me. And I hope that the new projects that are popping up think about regulation at the very beginning. I hope that we can all learn something from what's going on in the regulatory space. Before I kick it off to you, and Zack, I just want can you please very quickly and briefly talk us through what's gone on with Tether up until now? Because they've had a really interesting history when it comes to their operations and regulation.
Oh, briefly, I could not do. Tether is like the Rorschach test in the industry, right? Tether is either like this nefarious entity that is propping up the entirety of the crypto market, or it is merely sort of a vestigial, sort of mechanical piece of the market that is less centrally important than it had been in the past. I'm not going to wade into the Rorschach test, nor provide a history that can get skewered for being FUD or not. But I will toss it to Anna, and I will say that whichever way you see that Rorschach test, Tether is really important. And some of these questions are really ramping up in intensity and ramping up in volume, right? We have more people questioning these things that had long been questioned by observers of the space. And I think we're going to see more of that in the coming weeks. Anna, what's your take?
I just wanted to say that Tether is just like this ideal hero / villain of crypto. So many people are kind of, waiting in the tall grass for it to fail or to show that it's actually not backed or whatever. On the other side, there is a whole crowd rooting for Tether and saying there's nothing to see here. It's all legit. It's all backed. Tether is like clean and it's strong, and that there's no misconduct here. But I want to say that if there is a criminal probe, this sounds pretty strong. But the 2017 New York Attorney General investigation also sounded really serious, and Tether managed to come out of that, I would say, unscathed, because they have to settle. They now have these disclosures of their reserves, but Tether is functioning, and it is as instrumental for the crypto market as it is. And funnily enough, people who are operating with Tether, who are selling and buying it in large amounts, it doesn't look like they really care about, like, is it really backed 1-to-1? I recently spoke to one OTC dealer, and he was like, I was so happy to find out that Tether is 75% backed by US dollars. I thought it's much less. Like, I was so excited. So
yes, we'll talk about. Yeah, we talked a little bit about the market activity. Will, I think you are taking us to our. Oh no, Ben. Sorry, you are taking us to our next conversation.
Back to Ben.
I am.
You take it away, sir.
Fun audio dose there at the outro. My mic working again. But no, okay, you come from the
no,
it's
price. It's back.
Do it. Just lead the charge. We can lead it.
You got a scoop from you today.
We can do it. Yeah.
Well, you come from the Bitcoin price in week 2. So Bitcoin about 39K, highest price in about weeks here, seemingly at the back of news that Amazon is making some money moves. CoinDesk reported that Amazon is looking to hire a digital currency lead. And then I believe earlier today there was an unconfirmed report, City AM, that Amazon is actually looking to accept crypto payments by the end of the year and even potentially launch its own coin necker. That being said, that is unconfirmed and is a single source. But Zach, you're getting me off.
I'm going to jump in. I think this is a perfect audio mishap for an extremely murky and unclear story that the market has seized upon as justification for Bitcoin's price action. So Ben, you're a genius for that one, my man. Thank you so much.
Hi, Ben.
He's out of here. This is such a weird story, right? This is like people sort of reading the tea leaves, trying to get hype about a big company doing big things with Bitcoin, but I don't know if that's really substantiated. We had an insider talking to City AM, spilling the beans on what Jeff Bezos was thinking. One crypto influencer in particular claimed that he had orchestrated this hoax and had conned an unwitting reporter into running with this stuff because he was able to convince that reporter that he was indeed an Amazon insider when really he's just crypto Cobain. So I don't know. This one is very strange to me. I'm going to throw this to Will. I think you probably are plugged into the crypto Twitter scene at the moment. What's going on? What happened here?
Yeah, shout out to Crypto Kobe if that actually is what happened. This story makes absolutely no sense. It came out over the weekend. Unconfirmed reports from inside Amazon, from an insider at Amazon, that they're going to start accepting Bitcoin. And then by 2022, they will have their own Amazon native token for those special Prime deals. None of it really makes sense. I've not seen, there's one report of a hiring inside Amazon, perhaps for a digital currency role and I think CoinDesk got that story up first. So I was like, that's awesome. But that is not the full picture, right? Like, there's so much more going on. It took JP Morgan for their hirings for years for them to do something, and all these other banks to do something. I don't see Amazon rushing into this. And to a degree, I'm wondering if this is what kind of propped up Bitcoin's price over the weekend. There's also some talks of just kind of like the market structure over the weekend. There was like an expiry on futures, and that kind of propped up some shorts and forced people to buy. So that was kind of part of it. But Amazon and Bitcoin, it's just kind of like goes back to December when it was Tesla and Bitcoin and MicroStrategy and Bitcoin. And maybe we're getting back into that and it's just kind of like fueling this cycle again. But we'll see how much this rally has legs. But Anna, your thoughts?
Like, imagine Amazon coming out and saying, no, there's no way we're accepting Bitcoin, no tokens, like nope. And Bitcoin's like go right back down where it was.
Yeah.
I mean,
They do help
I'm
with
just,
Bitcoin stuff.
I'm just curious if we still have this Elon Musk effect active on the market. Like, you remember what happened? The same thing happened when Elon Musk was tweeting about Bitcoin and Tesla accepting Bitcoin, and Tesla not accepting Bitcoin, and the market reacted pretty actively. I just want to see what Amazon themselves say.
Yeah, I'll go over
Amazon
a quick
already
recap
helps
of.
with it.
Yeah,
Go
you
ahead,
talking
go
about
ahead.
you talking about the AWS stuff? You should say
Yeah,
that.
they have a lot of fingers in a lot of cryptocurrency stuff already. Like, what is it? 30% of nodes on Ethereum or something run on AWS. That's not a real number, but it's a really high figure. A lot of cryptocurrency projects run on AWS, and AWS actively supports a lot of blockchain infrastructure. So it's not to say that they're not interested in the sector. I think Amazon's just like profit maximalists. They want to make money where they can, but I don't. This report made absolutely no sense, and there was no like fact checking behind it so far. But Zach.
I did just
They
want to
also
say
gendered
like
their
what's
source, which I just
yeah.
couldn't get behind.
I just
It was
wanted
like,
to-
come on, guys.
I wanted to say like what is real. So Job Post, that's real. They are looking for a digital
Mhm.
currency lead, and they've sketched out some ambitions around cryptocurrency that hadn't previously been voiced. That was both posted and confirmed by an Amazon representative. Insider stuff could be real, could be a joke. Who knows? Unclear. We're trying to track that down as we speak. The third thing that is real is Amazon earnings call this week, and you better believe there's going to be some crypto reporters on that call. I can confirm that for you. So if anything comes out during the earnings call that is scheduled for Thursday, I believe, we'll have a little bit of info there as well. But I want to throw it back to Ben. I just want to see if his audio is back. Ben is also real. Ben, do you have any closing thoughts before we kick it to break?
Mic check 1 2 1 2.
Bars.
Yes.
Bars.
That's
balls.
it. That's it.
Woo! All right,
I'm back,
cool.
baby.
All right, we're gonna take a break. We're gonna reconvene. We're gonna huddle during the break, and when we get back from the break, we're gonna talk about leverage. Binance said it was cutting its leverage limit. FTX said it was cutting its leverage limit. What is going on? Why now? Why all this leverage talk? We'll talk about it soon. It's the Hash.
CoinDesk indexes, the market standard for crypto assets since 2014. Our trusted data powers billions in publicly traded funds. CoinDesk indexes are the standard used by institutions, and they're the key for investors looking to understand and access crypto markets.
As the company that launched the world's first ever Bitcoin ETF, we at Purpose chose the CoinDesk Bitcoin Price Index, the XBX, to price our assets.
CoinDesk indexes enabled the early adopters to build crypto investment vehicles, and they're already trusted by a new generation of global investors.
Here's some news for you crypto gamblers. Binance limited the maximum leverage on the crypto futures trading. And starting July 19, which is 1 week ago, users can only trade with 20 times leverage, while before they could go as high as 125 times. In addition to that, on August 10, Binance gonna stop crypto margin trading involving the British pound, euro, and Australian dollar. So it sounds like a bombshell to me. I don't know about you guys, but I'm reading this and I'm like, is there no more recklessness in crypto? You can't just go on Binance and trade with a crazy leverage of 100 or 125 and then make memes about you losing all your money and all this. Twitter chatter machine, it's like an epoch is over and the world will never be the same place again. And it's funny that CZ apparently understands how impactful this is to the entire brand of Binance, which has been known as a fairly reckless place in crypto. So he tweeted about this leverage limiting 1 week after it was enforced, explaining that Binance didn't want to make this a thingy, while apparently it is a thingy, and I wonder what do you guys make out of it?
Yeah, I'll say
what
it
do
really
you
quick.
think, Will?
Yeah, interesting timing. So I think CZ and Sam were on Up Only, which is another crypto TV show, about a month or 2 months ago. Yeah, Sam Bankman-Fried. And so they talked about this very topic, why do you allow such high leverage on your exchanges? And they both said, well, nobody uses it, so might as well use it as a marketing gimmick. if you want crypto traders who are typically extremely aggressive people who are kind of not very cautious with their money, advertise to them by showing that you can do up to 100, 125x leverage. And it doesn't really hurt anybody because nobody ever uses it. Of course, that's not what it looks like to regulators and other people out there. They're looking at this and saying, oh, you offer 100x leverage? Well, why would I want my citizens to use your exchange, and I'm going to geo-block you? So I think that's interesting. The about face comes up around the same time we're seeing a lot of regulation roll around the world, including to Binance.
Yeah, I want to note that CZ used to talk about it, about, a pretty offenseless thing, like, you don't have to use the sharpest knife you see. And he used to say that, users have been asking for it. So we give them what they want, and what they do with it, it's totally, up to them. But now it looks like it's not completely up to them. It's also up to Binance.
Yeah, just off the back of what you were saying, Anna, I think the recklessness in crypto is slowly but surely fading away. It may pop up in a different form, but I think as regulators start to put pressure on each other and start to understand, or maybe not understand even further what's going on in the industry, I think that recklessness is something that's behind us. I mean, if you look at CZ and SBF, they don't want to be shut down. They don't want to be tied up in court cases and paying tens of millions of dollars in settlements, because that really hinders their business. And I'm sure that they have incredible milestones to reach as they move forward. So recklessness, I think we're going to see it in another way, or maybe it's just going to be a thing of the past. But Ben, I'd love to know your thoughts on that.
Yeah, I mean, it does really feel like kind of a regulatory shotgun approach in this regard. Like, they're going after a lot of different people. I think obviously this is like ecosystem maturation in some ways in terms of lowering these limits. And I think, we've talked about institutional investors, for example, and kind of clients saying, okay, we're going to offer some form of crypto. It's because like that's what their customer base wants. And I think if there is a relatively small number of people using this isn't actually going to hurt these exchanges very much beyond just the perception of them, right? Like, which is also very much so a part of this game when it comes to regulators. And we've seen, stock tokens be delisted in some ways. We're seeing like, some DeFi apps start to limit some options. We're seeing, regulators start to look at BlockFi. And so it really feels like there's just kind of this roiling storm right now that is going to be interesting to see where it comes to a head. But we're seeing, people act in their own self-interest. And I think that is definitely something that's going to continue to maintain here, particularly as regulators start to look more and more at all of these different entities in the crypto world writ large.
I can't believe that Ben just...
the only way. Yeah,
Ben
sorry,
just
Zach.
he just did front running on like Will's story. Like, so I'm long recklessness. I think recklessness is going to stick around. Yo, can't believe you're fucking front running your boy Will here. Whoa, sorry, happy Monday. All right, family show. All right, let's change gears. Will,
on air.
Take it over.
Speaking of reckless.
Should we even talk about it? Ben just ruined the whole story.
Let's do it.
So on Saturday, July 23rd, that was Saturday? I think it was. Let's look at the old calendar. That was Friday. My apologies. Last Friday, Uniswap put out a blog post. Uniswap Labs, put out a blog post that their front end will now be limiting access to certain tokens that they feel could fall under the scrutiny of securities laws. Of course, there's a little difference here that needs to be noted. Uniswap Labs controls the most popular front end for Uniswap, the protocol. Uniswap, the protocol, lives online on Uniswap or on Ethereum blockchain. Can't be altered. It just exists there. You can add any token, and once it's on the smart contract, it lives there. It's uncensorable. The front end, though, that most people interact with to touch that smart contract can be changed, and it's owned by a US-based entity, and so they have to comply to securities law. So they decide to delist or block access to some of these tokens. Of course, there's other ways to get around it. You can go to a different front end, or if you know how to use the contract, even from like a command line or something like that, you can probably interact with these tokens. But it shows a tremendous amount of pressure that is moving into the space, the regulatory space, whether it's on the centralized front end or the decentralized front end of cryptocurrencies itself. It's also interesting to note that Uniswap decided to make this change instead of going about it in some other ways. We've seen something like the Maker Foundation, which issues its own stablecoin called DAI, has decided basically to kind of break apart, which falls really strongly within the ethos of decentralization. And a key reason for doing that is you don't really have to face any regulatory pressure if you don't exist anymore. So Uniswap decided to stay together, and they are deciding to kind of limit the things on their front end that they can, so they abide by US laws and sanctions. Really interesting story, a lot to unpack there. Zach, I want to get your thoughts.
Yeah, really, really interesting. I can't recall another example of this from Uniswap Labs specifically. I can't recall another delisting such as this. There may have been some that have occurred in the background, but for this to come out in the way that it came out was really super interesting. You know, we talk about decentralized exchanges as though they're just this free-flowing Wild West, whatever, nothing matters. And, you know, as Will alluded to, at the protocol level, that may be true, but there is still that throat to choke, right? There are still people who are administering these things and who can either choose to comply with certain regulations or maintain that they're decentralized enough to the point where they don't have to. So the fact that this came out when it did late Friday night is really interesting. It's gonna be really interesting to see if a more regulated DeFi will emerge and like a less regulated DeFi will emerge. And it's going to be really interesting to see where these teams start placing their bets. And it seems like on this one, Uniswap Labs is saying, hey, you know what? Maybe if we play by the rules, we can be that next Coinbase, right? In the DeFi space. And that seems to be the calculation. Time will tell, but it's really interesting to see this come out the way it did.
And I get your thoughts.
There is this really interesting part that, they kind of delisted these tokens on the front end, but if you are technical enough to use the smart contract like directly without the user interface, then you still can use them. And I wonder, if there are some apparent regulatory reasons Uniswap did that, like, somebody told them, you guys better be on the safer side or whatnot. How long will it take for the regulators to understand that, the front page is not everything that's happening in crypto? And, if at some point they get to the smart contract auditing and looking what's inside of that, imagine the SEC performing the smart contract audit or something like that. Wow, that would be the times to be alive.
I mean, we've seen
Go ahead.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Zach. You got
this. No, you got it. You do it. No, you got it. You got it. No, you got it.
When is Hayden Adams going to have to move to Singapore is my question. We saw like all these other exchanges, like the BitMEXs and FTXs of the world. They're like, we're going to East Asia. We're parking out. Security's lost. Can't touch us here. Hayden, are you going to stay in the U.S.? What's your plan?
That is absolutely the question. I think that I've been wondering that ever since, the old BitMEX stuff came down, right? Like if BitMEX happens and you're Hayden Adams, are you getting nervous? Or are you like, no, we are materially different from how they were operating, and we can prove it in X, Y, Z ways. I was just going to say before, like, we could imagine sort of like, blacklisted addresses making their way into DeFi. We've seen some products that have come out that could enable that, right? Okay, you're on the OFAC list, you're on the sanctions list. No, you're an address, you're banned from this decentralized exchange. And people are starting to think about that in those terms, right? How do we make this more compliant than it would otherwise be? But Jen, I'm curious for your thoughts.
Yeah, no, I was just going to say this story is just another iteration of regulators really stunting innovation and products and exchanges and platforms taking steps back to just avoid, regulators cracking down on them. And I just wonder what's going to happen next. I feel like we should just make Hester Peirce the queen of crypto regulation and establish some wonderful safe harbors so that we can actually test and learn, so that we can move into the future. I feel like we're like stuck in the mud. We keep trying to move forward and we're just like dragging our feet because the regulators don't know what they're doing. So I don't know. Every time I talk about regulation, I get really sad and energetic at the same time. Ben, go for it.
No, I was just going to say, down with monarchies. Just generally, we don't need queens, we don't need kings out in this world. But aside from that, Jen, I think you got the next
leader.
story for us.
All right, away from royalty and into ATMs. So some interesting information came out recently. Crypto ATM installations have increased over 70% this year, according to Coin ATM Radar. This compared with an increase of 120% in 2020. So I want to talk about crypto ATMs. We talk about crypto being the future. It's digital, it's virtual. ATMs feel like the antithesis to that for me. And so, Ben, I'm going to kick it down to you. We're seeing a rise in crypto ATMs, but do you think that's going to continue? And in my head, I feel like this is just going to fade away as people really start to understand how to use crypto and how to interact with it.
Yeah, it's a weird one. I don't like ATMs generally. Like, they charge you fees. I try not to go to them that often in a lot of different ways. And I feel like this is sometimes like this is a metric that gets thrown out there as sort of a corollary to crypto adoption writ large. And I don't think that's quite exactly how it works. I think that's, a number that gets pushed a lot of the time. So while these are being installed, I think much more a better example would be like how many transactions are actually occurring on them. I remember like seeing these in like some sandwich shops in New York and some other stuff. And it's like a little wild to see, but I never see anybody actually using it. So that's sort of where my mind goes for this. I think there are much different numbers we should be looking at in terms of it. So that's just my initial thoughts. But Anna, what you got?
Well, I totally disagree with you guys that ATM, the crypto ATM are not important. I think that it's really cool for the adoption because like when the crypto ATM is in the nearby coffee shop, you at least, even if you have no idea about crypto and you don't really care, you might get curious. You might like approach it and, tap on the screen, see how it looks, see what you can do, and maybe buy like $50 worth of Bitcoin or whatever you like. I think that actually crypto ATMs is a very fun kind of playful way of crypto adoption because people can people like physical tangible things that they can that they can touch, that they can hold in their hand. And the crypto ATM is kind of, this point at which the physical world meets this like very ephemeral, hard to grasp digital world of crypto. So I think, I don't know if it's working in reality, but if it helps crypto adoption, it's pretty cool.
Yeah, I'll jump in there really quick. So I think it shows a few things. Really quick, I'll jump in there. First of all, it's like the fees are really high, and that's why they're able to put these machines everywhere. And so like I'm totally with you on that, Ben. Like it does cost a lot to use one of these machines. But I think like in non-US countries, Bitcoin ATMs make a ton of sense. Like in the US, I don't think I'd be interested to see like how many people actually use them. But if you're someone in El Salvador, for example, and you want to get access to Bitcoin or you want to swap out of Bitcoin, well, you need an ATM more than not because you can't really necessarily always do that on your phone. So I think there's other markets where ATMs make a ton of sense. But just in like US and maybe Western Europe, they don't always make as much sense.
Well, Will, to that point, I mean, we're talking about high fees. And I think in places like El Salvador, that high fee is more of a barrier, no?
It's a barrier, but like your alternative is not having it at all. So I think like you see like the way that money moves across time and like things get easier is like it's pricey at first, but slowly adoption happens. Like more ATMs come in and then like they're battling out as who has cheaper transaction fees, and over time things get a little bit more simple. But right now, like if you're an El Salvadorian and Jack Mallers airdropped you some Bitcoin, how do you dispose of it to like buy whatever you want to buy with it? Well, it's better to have an ATM than not have an ATM.
But they do have local Bitcoins and Paxful in El Salvador, right? Actually,
yeah,
I would say in many countries outside of the US, the culture of digital payments is much more developed. Like I don't use cash as often in Russia as I did in the US. I mean, like physical cash, like paper cash. So I think, it's not the matter of the country, but the matter of crypto audience, non-crypto audience. If you're totally new to crypto, this thing just can catch your attention and suck you in.
I've never used a crypto ATM. I really should. I want to know like how it works. Are they just like a front end for like a custodial account with whichever provider you're going through, or like is there some other like aspect? Anyway, we'll take a field trip one day to a Circle K or something, and we'll make it all happen. But that's not going to happen today because we are wrapping the show right here. I'm the wrap guy. It's over. This has been The Hash. I'm Zach. We got Anna. We got Ben. We got Jen. We got Will. We'll be back tomorrow to talk about more stuff. Stick with us. All About Bitcoin is on at 3 p.m. Eastern today. We're looking for some reactions on the Tether news, and we'll have other interesting conversations for you there as well. Stick with us on CoinDesk.com, and we'll talk to you tomorrow. Bye.
See ya.
Bye.